Well, today, actually, I'm officially changing the name of the podcast from the Grow with Ryan Magic podcast to the Ryan Magic Show. So
No.
you're the first guest on the Ryan Magic Show. So
Ooh.
welcome on. It's amazing to have you here, Chelsea Pottenger. And
Thank
you're such a beautiful shining light in this world. And there are so many juicy, practical things that I want to just get those nuggets out of you throughout the show today. But before I do, I would really love to kick off going through something that your message and your story is so powerful. And I heard you speak a year and probably close to 18 months ago
you.
at Mitchelton Winery at a retreat. And you were telling your story of when you were really thriving, really successful in your career and operating in corporate at a high level. And you got to a point where not out of nowhere, but you got to a point where there was some suicidal thoughts that were popping up. And when I see you, and I've watched your journey, like that was the first time I was exposed to you. And then I've watched your journey, and Kept and I had a cheeky stalk here and there of what you do. And you're a powerhouse lady on a mission, right? You're a really powerful lady. And for someone that is so powerful, because I know a lot of the listeners that tune into this are really growth driven people, and you're one of the most powerful forces that I've met. And you still got to that point. So I would really be honored if you could share that vulnerability on how you as someone who is so strong got to that point in your life.
Thank you. What a lovely introduction. I'm so excited to be your first guest on this new show. And so for the listeners and for a refresh for us as well, you know what, my life before I kind of had this severe adversity, which has been probably the biggest blessing that could have happened to me now, reflecting back on that. But for years, Ryan, you know, for over a decade, I was operating at a pretty fast pace in the corporate world. I started off in medical sales. So I was in surgical theatres every day. And then I got promoted to a senior role. And then I became a general manager when I stepped out of that healthcare industry. But my days were 12, 13-hour days. I would relax in the afternoon and evening times with kind of like the Hendrix gin on ice in my hand. You know, those kinds of like quick, really unhealthy hits, what I perceived was stress releasing. Then the next day, I was an athlete. I'd been an athlete since I was young, so I was used to training my body super hard. Now, not knowing the impact of like triathlon training and, you know, big long runs and that cortisol inducing, I thought that I was doing the best thing for myself. So I'd get up in the morning and I'd hit the pavement, you know, first thing in the morning, straight out the front door, 5 a.m., huge run, train, get home, you know, have a shower, and then I'd get the triple shot coffee. So it was just this constant like on. Then I'd do the big long days. And my philosophy back then, when I used to live in Sydney and had that role, was work hard, party hard. So I used to party hard as well. And it was, you know, work out hard. So everything was at this hard level. I had such high expectations on
And
myself.
by society standards, you were doing you were doing well at what we are taught to believe is a full life at that point as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, that's what a successful life looks like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, right? Because it comes at the cost.
Yeah. Well, this is why I want to bring it up, because a
Yeah.
lot of people think that this is the crux, and people that haven't yet got to that turning point of pain. And I always say the best lessons come with blood. You know, that hasn't happened for a lot of people, and to try to convince them, and this is one thing I want to explore in this convo today, is how you've created a sustainable lifestyle, which I'm not going to ask a question for, but your lifestyle is filled with so much space now, beautiful space for you and your family and your health and nourishing yourself. And you're very productive. You're growing a mission. You're on a mission, and you're kicking ass. But it's not in the same way. And so, like, yeah, I just want to intercept there, and because I'd love for you to weave in any false truths that you believed from back then that would lead you. Because I know one of your 4 pillars now is productivity. So you believe in getting shit done.
Absolutely.
How, like, to anyone that's listening that kind of thinks, well, creating more space is actually going to allow me to get less done as well.
And how untrue that is. So we will, and I'll absolutely touch on that. So for people to kind of understand where that pivot happened for me in that sort of option B of new life, was that when I was operating at this pace, it took me 5 years to fall pregnant. I really wanted to have a baby. And then in 2015, we were so blessed. We fell pregnant. I was the most excited, just excited person cruising around Sydney. And then an ironic thing really happened to someone who's a really like a career drivenist, an optimistic person, someone who's really happy in life. And I got slammed really hard with severe postnatal depression, like gut wrenching postnatal depression, to the point that it was so clinical, but I had no idea about it, right? I had no idea about mental health. I had no idea about postnatal depression. I didn't even know what that was, to be honest, when I had the baby. No idea. And so day 3, the chemical imbalance when the milk came in, the genetic predisposition from one of my parents that I didn't know about because they were hiding behind a mask. Day 3, the chemicals just went absolutely berserk, and I was having premonitions that day of jumping off the balcony at this hotel because I'd gone to a private hospital to have the baby. Then they transferred me to the hotel because we were getting it as a new mum. So I was having this lovely sort of lifestyle down at this private hotel, but all these really dark feelings and thoughts were coming up and I was suppressing it. Wow, that is full on. Don't tell anyone that. That is crazy, right? Don't say that to anybody. They'll take the baby from you. Let's just pretend everything's okay. And the insomnia started that day, like that night, could not sleep. And this went on, Ryan, for like, 6 weeks. Every day was just getting worse. I was crying more. I couldn't get the handle on breastfeeding. I had worse and worse insomnia. And I thought, you can't complain. You've been waiting 5 years for this baby. Like, this is everything that you've wanted.
Be grateful.
Be grateful. Some people can't have babies. You should be so grateful that you've got a baby and a healthy one.
Yeah.
And the insomnia and anxiety just got so bad that then it kind of switched into really bad depression. And I remember at 6 weeks, my doctor, it was a locum at the time, my actual GP was away, and she said, you need to just get some sleep. And I'm like, I'll do anything to get sleep. And she said, how about I give you some sleeping pills? I'm like, great. Okay. So got on the sleeping pills. They are so addictive. And when you have one little block of sleep for 5 hours, I'm like, brilliant. I feel like a different woman. I'll take another one the next night. She didn't tell me that they get really addictive after 3 days. So then I start this full-blown addiction to benzos. Now, the thing with benzodiazepines is that they actually, you're required to have more as the time goes along. So it has this compounding effect, and then you get less sleep, right? So 9 weeks in, after the birth of Clara, I was sleeping like 1 hour, 1 or 2 hours, and I was taking 3 or 4 benzos a night. Wow. So you can imagine the impact of that was having on my mental health. Now, that week I was going to escape to Scotland to my best mate's wedding and be the bridesmaid. I was still pretending to everyone I was okay, still looking on the outside. I had everything going on, but on the inside, all day, if I saw myself in the mirror, I'd just burst into tears and just go, just hold on, Chels. Just, you can get through this. You can snap out of it. And I just couldn't. And then when I was meant to be in Scotland, I remember this day, I was driving to the airport. I had such bad suicidal thoughts popping up in my mind all the time. And I thought, if I can just get to Scotland and away from my situation here, I could recover, right? Maybe I can get better without having a newborn around. And so on the way to the airport, I suffered this huge panic attack. And it was so severe that I don't know if anyone's experienced a panic attack listening, but they're horrendous. It feels like you're having a heart attack. I couldn't see, pulled the car over. And that was the moment that I'd lost all hope. And I just thought, you know what? I can't even get to Scotland. I'm a burden as a mum. I'm not a good friend. I can't snap out of this, whatever this is. The only way to get out of this is to end my life. Now, when you're a high functioning type A person, you're very action orientated, right? So it's very scary for people who are suicidal to be in this headspace. So I was just on Google, jumping on Google going, okay, how can I do it? What's the best way to do it? The most efficient way? Before I do that, I'll go home and I'll write a letter to my daughter and to Jay. And at this stage, I'd convinced myself in my mind that Jay was better off without me. Clara, my daughter, was better off without a mother like me because I was hopeless. This is what I was telling myself. Jay will get married to someone else more amazing. They'll thank me. They're going to be so grateful that I do this for them. Like, this is the kind of like bizarre, untrue thinking patterns suicidal patients have, right? So I get home to write the letter, and my husband was there, And he's like, hey, babe, what is going on with you? You're meant to be at the airport. Are you doing okay? Are you doing okay? And I just burst into tears, right? And that was the first moment I could actually be honest with him and just go, darling, I'm just not coping. I just cannot get it as a new mum. I have got suicidal thoughts. I really honestly think that life is better off without me not here. I know you probably find this bizarre to hear, but you're going to be really grateful when I take my life today. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he
Yeah.
broke, right? Like he's crying, I'm crying. And
Wow.
he's like, darling, we need to get you professional help like straight away. We need to get you to hospital. Like this is not normal. And I was so blessed, Ryan, that he was home that day. And that one question honestly saved my life. Hey, are you doing okay? Like, honestly, are you doing okay today? That genuine question. And that kind of unfolds then from that story of getting into hospital, being admitted, getting myself back on track, and I was very blessed that
How many years ago was this?
that was 5 years ago. Like, well, yeah,
Wow.
6 years ago. So it's just been this journey, right, of being able to, and I was lucky that I had someone that loved me that could take action and
Yeah.
get me into the hospital. And then in that unit, I met a great psychiatrist who kind of taught me everything about meditation, mindfulness, gut health,
Yeah.
fasting. And after the 5 weeks of recovering, I had to be medicated, and honestly, the medication saved my life. But after the 5 weeks, my psychiatrist said to me, you would be such a beautiful psychologist. And I thought, rightio. Okay. Maybe
Type
this
A
isn't,
personality.
yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, right. I'll go back to uni. But before I did that, she prescribed to me loving kindness, compassion, meditation when I left the hospital. She was just such an amazing person. And I spent some time at the Nantin Temple. And I remember I was there doing this loving kindness, compassion meditation, because when you go through postnatal depression, you have a lot of shame and guilt about not getting it.
Yeah.
And I was with the monks one day and doing this loving kindness towards myself first and then across the globe. And one of the monks said to me, hey, Charles, do you know that sometimes we have to, break or crack for the light to come out and to get to your true calling? And I thought, wow, that is so powerful. You're right. Imagine if I could help people never go through what I went through. So I was so inspired then. I was really empowered. I had this flame inside my belly to think, if I now help one person in this life, that they don't take their life, then that is such a beautiful
So,
thing.
yeah. I
Uh,
really want to just give you some massive kudos, because I didn't know the that place that you were at in your life before. I didn't know you then, but having seen who you are now, that's just like your normal day-to-day life. It's full of wellness and empowerment and
yeah.
love, and I can see it's so obvious to see how much you love your little one. Is it
Mm.
Clara?
Clara, she's
Clara.
an
And your
angel.
family, and you legitimately are just the embodiment of what it is that you teach, and it's just incredible. And you mentioned, like, I was so lucky that day to have my husband's support, and I was so lucky to have this psychologist. But up until that point, you hadn't done anything wrong. Like,
Mm.
you just happened to go full on based on what your environment told you was right. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like there was any bad intent. It was the opposite. You're like, I'm trying to get the most out of my life. And I
Mm-hmm.
can relate to this a lot as well, because I tried so hard to get myself to the point where I burnt myself out. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah.
easy to get there. It was really hard to do the thing that was hard, that was bad for me from a health perspective. I
Yeah.
worked so hard to burn myself out. I was so courageous to get myself to that point of success.
Yeah.
And I can just I really can feel empathy for that. And then off the back end, like, being that kind of high achiever, then kind of blaming myself for getting to that point. And it's like, none of it was your fault. And
Mm-hmm.
then you were able to have the open-mindedness, like the universe gifted you some karma, which you'd earned,
Mm.
with that psychologist, and karma that you earned with your partner that day, because, you deserved to have
Yeah.
that turning point.
Thank you, Ryan. What a blessing that was. And I just
Yeah.
think my psychiatrist was so, and this is a really beautiful question that answers something that you brought up at the start of the conversation, was around, how we define success. And my psychiatrist in the hospital said to me, instead of thinking about what you want to have, let's start journaling down how you want to feel. And let's define
Yes.
success that way. She's like, tell me, how do you want to feel moving forward? And I said to her, I want to feel calm. I want to feel
Yeah.
at peace. I want to feel happiness.
Yeah.
She said, one of the things was, I think you should move out of Sydney. That was one of her guidances, because a lot of her anxiety patients actually leave the city because the cities are just so, everything's just, you know, in a rush and hard. And it just
Yeah.
really does wind us up as anxious people.
Yes.
And she said, have you ever thought about moving down south? And I thought, that's exactly where I wanted to be living for the last sort of decade, because my in-laws are down in Gerringong Way, and I thought,
Mm.
that's it. I need a pace of life that's not so stimulated all the time.
Yeah. And that was the obvious choice for your new definition of success, but it was the non-obvious choice for your old definition of
Correct.
success.
Correct.
Yeah.
It was so brilliant, because now financially, I'm more financially well off than I ever have been before. But it's more financially well off in terms of my bucket is so full, and that financial wealth honestly just gets distributed straight back out there to our charities that we support for mental health. And then it kind of just flows back in, we just flow it back out. And it's
Yeah.
not, I'm no longer attached to the house or a car or shoes or that ridiculous stuff that we get hardwired to.
Yeah.
It's just outrageous.
It's so outrageous from the other side, but in
I
the
know.
moment, it's just like the emotional pull that is ingrained within, that has become ingrained within us,
Mm.
attempting to do life right and win and do the best we can, which we're taught. Because I can relate to you massively from having like being an athlete growing up,
Mm.
being really, and I also, you know, have you heard of the Enneagram
No.
personality types? There's so many of them, but the gist is you've got a conditional, like we're taught to conditionally be worthy of love based
Mm.
on a certain set of parameters that we meet if we get stroked positively or negatively based on what our parents says to us. You know, great job for expressing yourself. Then you go, cool, if I express myself, I'm worthy of love. Or, you know, keep quiet, we've got guests around. Okay, if I express myself, I'm not worthy of love, so I got to be quiet. Or, well done, you did well on your test, or you won today, amazing job, or you came third, that's not good. And then we go, what do I need to do to be worthy of love? Because we're dependent as kids, so that we can actually have our parents protect us.
Mm.
Because if we believe, which is logical, if we're in the wild, that if we don't appease our parents, then they don't love us and they won't protect us. And so we're actually in fight or flight if we're not meeting the conditions that we were taught to meet to be worthy of love. And we can both, we're very similar from our scripts being centered around achievement and success and doing really well with things and being the best at things. And that's what we need to do to be worthy of love. And
Mm.
so much of society is geared that way. And so many of the people that I attract and you would attract would be geared that way as high performers. And so it's really interesting that you were able to move your goalposts to being the quality of the emotions you experience moment to moment, which is your whole life is the moment. So if you're feeling like it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense, I don't understand how I missed this, but it's like, okay, so if you have one day where you feel great in the future when you're going to hit some goal that's 3 years away, but then you spend 1,000 days not feeling good on the lead up to that one day, it's just so stupid. If
It's an
the
illusion.
goal of life is fulfillment.
It's an illusion. And it's okay to have a nice car and nice house, but just really understanding that's not where our happiness indicators lie. You know, it actually, there's 3 pillars for the happiness indicators. The most important one is your health, your physical and your mental health. If those
Yes.
2 things are not in check, you cannot pour from an empty cup. You are no good for yourself and for anyone else around you. So that has to be like highest priority. And then
Yeah.
number 2 is your relationships, your connection
Yeah.
with
You
people. And
feel like crap with the health thing as well. You can
yeah,
experience, like, people normalize the healthy habits that they have and the experience that they have. And whenever you relapse, it's great research to realize how much of a detriment it is when we're choosing the unhealthy habits. Like
absolutely.
if you get 8 hours sleep every night or 8.5 or whatever you need, and then one night you have 3 hours sleep and you're like, oh, that's what my sleep does for me because I felt like
Yeah.
crap on that day. Or yeah, your diet's really, really solid. And then one particular day you just like have a bunch of like really unhealthy food and a bunch of sugar, and you feel that disgusting sluggish feel. In contrast, you're like, oh, that's what the health is doing for me.
Absolutely. And the day
Feeling.
you have today is what you set up yesterday. So what you fueled your
Yes.
body with, how you slept, that actually sets up our day today. And it's, I just think people miss that. They miss that whole, but I just can't schedule it in. And I say to them, okay, if you can't schedule in to take care of yourself, your mental and physical health, I want you to think about one person, and the listeners could do this right now. Think about one person you love the most in this world. Who is that one person? And just journal their name down. And I want you to start doing it for them. And what I mean by that is that my daughter Clara, who's 5.5, and my husband Jay, they are the most important things in my life. My daughter Clara does not deserve a stressed out, anxious, burnt out mummy at the end of the day. She just does not deserve that. So every day I schedule in movement, or I meditate, or I go and do something flow like surfing. So she gets the best version of me every day.
Yeah, that's so practical. That's
Isn't
so
it?
practical. But why? Like, but what I'm curious in is like, why do we always have to deflect it to someone else? Why can't it just be for our own fulfillment?
Correct. And this is the thing, if people can't intrinsically motivate themselves, if they cannot get them across the line, right, for themselves, for feeling great and thriving and productivity and longevity and just having no inflammation in the body and all these great things that happen from taking care of yourself, then they have to lean on somebody that they love.
Yeah.
Because, then that usually gets them across the line from a psychological level. And the other third pillar, Ryan, that everyone kind of forgets about, and I know that you're into this as well. So it's like your health, it's relationships with your people. So just if you're introverted, you just need 2 people that you love and they love you. And for extroverts listening, they need 5. Okay, that's kind of how it works. And then
I love that. So practical again. This is what I love about the way that you speak. It's so like tangible.
yeah, and then the third thing, which is
Interesting.
the unsung hero, which we see it all the time in the research, is charity work. Is when you
Yes.
actually get yourself out of your own head and you start doing things for other people that can never repay you. Your happiness bucket honestly flows over. This sense of fulfillment is just next level. And I just wish I knew that at a younger age. And that's why I teach my daughter Clara, 5.5, about charity. And, she thinks a little girl's charity. She's like, because she's so little, she's like, oh, Mum, do you think charity will like my little dress or something? I could give it to charity. And I'm like, you're so cute. But I'm just getting this language around Clara, So when she goes through stuff, she is constantly out of her own ego and her own head and thinking about others all the time.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I just think it's the easy formula, isn't it?
Yeah. I watched
Connection.
a TED talk once that spoke about, they studied the centurions, the people that lived over 100 around the world, and found like, we're trying to find the secret to what caused the longevity. And the one thing that, or the top 2 were both connection based, which I was really surprised about, because I'd always thought health hacks, become a vegan, do all this stuff, and I'm going to live really long. But, I was like a lone wolf on this mission to like achieve everything. And I was missing like that beauty and connection, relating and love.
Yeah.
So the first one was like the quality of the relationships that you have with the people that are close to you, like that 2 and 5 that you mentioned. Then the second one was the feeling of belonging that you have being represented through just little, like if you walk down the street and you wave or smile at the people that you're going past, it's kind of like, I feel like that represented a feeling of belonging.
Absolutely. Sense of community. Your neighbors go away, take their bins out for them. You can share eggs on the street. Having a glass of wine and with your neighbors we do this not every afternoon, otherwise I'd too much. But yeah, right. But we do it every Sunday for sure. We've got the fire pit out the front right now because it's winter. Everyone's got camping chairs. We just hang out on the front with the kids, play on the street. They climb the trees. They chalk on the street. And it's that whole thing of like that sense of, you're right, that sense of belonging and community. And that is why I love it with Gerringong. We've got 3,500 people down here. And I love this sense of connection here. It is so beautiful. Even my mechanic this morning, when I walked my car, I had to drop the car off. And he's great, right? I just picked him up a coffee on the way to drop my car off. And he's like, Chelsea, do you know that you're on Insight Timer? And I'm like, and Insight Timer is a meditation app for people who don't know. And I said, I do. And he's like, but you're on there every week. And I'm like, I know. And he said, I've just started meditating with you. And I'm like, How beautiful is that? Even our local
Wow.
clinics are meditating. I'm like, this is just super cool, right? So
That is so cool.
it's unreal. It's
So,
unreal.
so I think this is a perfect segue into how you, I want a real honest opinion
Mm,
about your life right now for all the achievers out there.
yeah.
I've integrated my lifestyle to be way different. I have a 2-hour break in the middle of the day every day where I go for a run, listen to a podcast, have a shower, meditate. I'm just curious to know for you, like, how how do you think it's affected your productivity, and what does your lifestyle look like now versus the
Yeah.
13-14 hour days now living in the country,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
and like, how's your lifestyle different, and is it more productive, less productive? Like,
Look, I think the output that we're doing is insane. Like, I've never been more productive than what I am right now. And there's a few reasons for that. And a couple of maybe ideas or hacks for people listening. Number one is in the morning, I'm very reactive. I'm very proactive in my company and in my mental health. And what I mean by that is from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., it is all about Chelsea and it's all about EQ Mind and it's all about my family. So, what we do is we think about something that I'm going to do in that period of time for my mental health and physical health.
mm,
So it could be I go for a bike ride with my daughter, right? And then
mm,
when I drop her off at childcare, we do the Pomodoro Technique, which is like 25 minutes on, right?
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
hardcore on a task. Everything else is down and I've scheduled out my day. And then I take a 5-minute brain break. And it's literally just me skipping on the balcony or it's chucking a load of washing in. Then that 5-minute alarm will go off and then I'm back in the saddle, right, for another 25 minutes. Now, before I start that to-do list, I think about one thing. What is the biggest return of investment for my company today? What is that?
mm,
What does that look like? And I land that plane first. I do not move on until I land that plane. So it could be prospecting. I could be like,
mm,
okay, let's go for 15 minutes every single morning. We're prospecting out for new clients for keynote speaking. Yeah, I can feel a sense of change in the market right now, more confidence, except for Paul Victoria. But conference speaking is going to come back in a few months. And I can feel that. So every day, it's part of it. Biggest return of investment from our company is prospecting straight off the bat, and then we kind of work in those chunks. So the Pomodoro technique I find so effective because a few things scientifically. One, it's like primacy and recency. So you have smaller chunks. So I remember more of the information than I'm either absorbing. So if I'm in
mm,
research, I remember the first part of it and the last part of it, right? So you have
yes,
these smaller chunks. So you're remembering memory, recall, and retention's better. Two, having these smaller sort of bite-sized breaks is that you restore the glucose in the prefrontal cortex. So this part of the brain is your executive functioning and you need your glucose thriving. If you are somebody out there who's pushing through 5 hours of emails and you're not taking a brain break to recalibrate, you are going to, first of all, burn through the glucose. So you're not going to be as functioning. You are going to then usually multitask, right? We'll then start multitasking ourselves into inefficiency. And then what happens is at the end of the day, you're the person that flops onto the couch. But if you try the 25-minute, 5-minute break, your energy and your output is next level. And then the third thing that comes from that is the self-efficacy. So when I get on this role and just start ticking these things off, great, I've done content, 2, I've done prospecting for 25 minutes, 3, I've done, the self-efficacy gets built. So all of a sudden you've got this self-belief of, gosh, I'm having a successful day. Plus,
mm,
because you're taking these 5-minute brain breaks all the time, your brain's just recalibrated and you feel fantastic.
yes,
So from an output point of view, that's gone up from using the Pomodoro technique
yeah,
to every day schedule it in self-care. Every single day, some kind of mental health. So whether that's first up in the morning, I move, I do PT, I will ride the bike, I'll go for a surf. Every day scheduled in meditation without a doubt, because it actually recharges my brain and that's where my creativity sort of ideas come from for the business. So that's
amazing.
scheduled in.
Hmm.
And then I just make sure I nourish my body properly as well throughout the day. But being in Gerringong and moving out of that lifestyle, I A, am more productive, but B, I'm just healthier because I'm sleeping better. So I honor
Yeah,
my sleep hygiene at nighttime. I have a morning routine in the morning. And then during the day, we've kind of got this schedule in. And so we feel amazing. Now, when you're sleeping well, nourishing your gut health, and you've got fresh country air, and you're moving your body, and you've got a stress management technique in, man, the world is kind of unstoppable because
yeah,
your mind is in the right headspace.
Yeah, I feel like most people only feel the negative side of this, like, because if you're just crushing the day, it just kind of feels normal. Like, it's
Mm.
just like, yeah, this is the way I'm going about it. But then if there's something lacking in, I have like the SMASH principle, which is like SMASH for health, like the acronyms. And it's like stimulants, so like avoid stimulants,
Yes.
meditation, it's activity, so just moving, sleep, and
Mhm.
hydration. And it's like,
Okay.
before anyone's like, I'm going to hack it by taking these supplements and all this stuff, it's like, if any of these things are missing, you're
Yeah.
just going to absolutely struggle.
100%. And hydration is huge. Like when we first wake up, brush teeth, brush the tongue, and all of us smash 500 mils of filtered water straight off the bat, right? Just to
Amazing.
detox, flush the system, kick the day off in the right way. And maybe one other thing that I didn't mention is that our company takes a week off every 6 weeks. So every 6 weeks, we have scheduled in our calendar, we take a full week off the grid, like a whole week.
Wow.
Now, and my employees get the same. They still get paid full pay, but they have to take a week off. And
Wow.
what I notice from a creativity, longevity, happiness, loyal perspective is that my company thrives because they have these
Wow.
consistent. I feel like sometimes as entrepreneurs, what we do is because we love it, right? We love what we do so much.
Yeah.
We just work all the time. But what happens is we put the pedal to the metal, right, for 11 months of the year, and then you might take a 1 month break over Christmas. What happens is you burn out, you blow a gasket, and all of a sudden this passion of yours, you become resentful to it.
Yes.
And you don't want that. You want to actually have this longevity and this thriving, because life's the journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Life's the journey. You want
100%.
to just go, that's cool. In 3 weeks' time, we've got a week off in a different destination we've never been before, and we won't have tech. That's amazing, right? So you have these,
Yes.
and the other cool thing from a science psychology perspective is 2 weeks before you take a break. And if you're thinking they're sitting there going, I can't take a week off every 6 weeks, think about taking a long weekend every 6 weeks. Because what happens from a psychological perspective is you get serotonin, okay, released 2 weeks before the break, right? So you will hear it and you'll feel it. You speak to someone who's about to go on a holiday. How do they sound? They're
Yeah.
upbeat, right?
They're
They are
pumped.
motivated, aren't they? They
Yeah.
are pumped. And so they're on this high for 2 weeks. They
Yes.
take the break. They get a good brain break away from work. They come back. They might have a little bit of a post-holiday dip, but it doesn't matter, right? Because in 5 weeks from now, they've got another break coming up. And it's just, honestly, if people just adopt that and try that for a
So
long
game
6
changing.
weeks, it is a game changer.
Because it's your mission as well. I love just how much you're embodying it, because I know your mission's to change the way that corporate and organizations and companies prioritize mental health, making it the top priority for their staff, which therefore leads to their performance being higher,
100%.
retention, like you said, satisfaction, loyalty.
Yeah.
It's so
Engagement.
cool.
I know. I just more people like just got that message right. That you have to take care of yourself and you have to take care of your staff.
Yeah.
They will take care of you from a productivity point. They become loyal to the person that they report to. They're not loyal to the brand. They're loyal to you.
Yeah.
If you treat
Yes.
them well and they know that you're invested into them and that you care for them and you love them, they will work so hard for you.
Yes.
It's just a natural thing that happens.
Yeah. What I really love about this whole last kind of like 20-minute snippet is that you are talking about these wellness practices and looking after your health, number one, but you do have practical strategies and in how you approach being productive. Like you use the Pomodoro. I had a question. You mentioned 7 to 10, you have it time for EQ Minds, your company, you have some time for the family, you have some time for yourself. So how does that work? It's just whatever you feel in the day. You're like, okay, cool. I wake up, feel into it. What would I like to do? Do you prep it
Yeah.
the night before? Like, how do you?
Great question. So maybe I'll talk you through my morning routine. Would that be? Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
love that.
So wake up without an alarm, right? I wake up when my body is rested. And the reason why I know that is I'm a lark anyway, but I'll be waking up 7:15, 7:20. I go to bed early, like 9. I'm off the screens at 9, so I'm not getting stimulated by the blue and red light, right? So it doesn't shut off the melatonin. That way I get a really nice deep REM sleep. Now, if you're like us who love data, right, and we measure our bodies all the time, I usually wear an Aura ring. Yeah, you got it on. Yeah. Because how cool is that, right? It
So
tells you
cool. So fun.
when you wake up in the morning, you've got your results from your HBT, so you know how your body's rested.
Yes.
Now, if that score is low, I'd be like, okay, how interesting. Maybe my body's still in muscle recovery from the workout the day before. Maybe I
Yes.
could be like tinkering around with a little bit of a cold. Today, I'm not going hardcore at the gym. I'm going for a walk, right?
Yes.
I'm going for a bike ride. So I listen to my data first
Yes.
up. So I wake up with just when my body naturally wakes up. Now, if my daughter hasn't come in and given me a cuddle by then, I'll just literally wake up and do some affirmations like what we did at the start. Just this one little sentence: today is going to be a beautiful day. Today's
Yes.
going to be a beautiful day. And I just think about that. And then I think about gratitude. So this is kind of how I wake up in the morning. I don't check my phone at all when I first wake up.
Yes.
There's a few reasons behind that. Is because whatever you're consuming in the very first part of the morning, in those very first 8 minutes, we see it scientifically, will physically change the neocortex structure of your brain. Now, let me explain that from a more palatable state. Whenever you wake up in the morning and you turn your alarm off, okay, and you're not alone, 90% of people do this,
Yes.
and check their phone. The brain is in this theta state, which all it means is a fancy word, theta, which means it's neuroplastic, which means that the brain is like Play-Doh. So just think about that. The brain is really malleable, soft like Play-Doh when I first wake up. Therefore, whatever I'm putting into my eyes, the content I'm absorbing right now, first up in those first few minutes of the morning, goes through my eyeballs and starts to literally lay down more neurocircuits in the brain. Now, if you're waking up and you're checking emails, you're checking your social media feed, you're checking the news, what will happen to you is this. You wake up, you see a bad news story, some kind of racial riot. The amygdala in your brain, which is your stress center, will get alerted. It'll start pumping cortisol through the brain. Then your adrenal glands will come to the party. This is like the biochemistry of the body, okay? Adrenal glands pump up some adrenaline for you. But then because the brain, this is so important, you take note of this, because the brain is so neuroplastic, because it's so malleable, you'll start to hardwire things in your brain like fear, worry, and paranoia. And we haven't even stuck our leg outside of the bed yet. And we're literally just in bed scrolling through these news stories, not realizing the content we're absorbing is like the nutrients you absorb in the mouth. The content you're absorbing through the eyeballs will physically have a neocortex structure on your brain, and it's how you're going to start your whole day.
Wow.
So one thing that people do not do moving forward is check their mobile phone and just wake up. Okay. And if you are a night owl and you need an alarm, okay, that's okay. Just have the alarm, then turn it off and wake up. And just by even saying today's going to be a really good day. And these are 3 things that I'm grateful for today. Watch how your world changes in the next few months. So then that's kind of how we get started. Then we brush teeth, cuddles with Clara, big water, like complete flush out throughout the system, then we move. All right, so we're into movement straight off the bat. So we're either doing bike ride, walking, playing, like running around with Clara, doing some wrestling in a fun way. And then
body slamming her.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, she loves it. And then she'll usually go to childcare. Okay, so she gets off for childcare, and then we're in work mode, right? So we're like, let's literally think about what is the biggest things we need to get done for the day. And then we start the Pomodoro Technique. So we write down a to-do
So what
list.
time is this usually at?
Well, this is usually, we drop her, so we'll drop her off at 8 o'clock. So
Cool.
as soon as we're back. Now we do the Pomodoro Technique of everything we're doing. So we're very proactive to the company. What I mean by that, I don't even check emails till 10 a.m. Don't even let the outside world in.
Wow.
What I'm doing then is I'm being reactive to the outside world.
Yes.
I don't want to do that just yet. I want to be really proactive to our company. Right? So I'm ticking our biggest goals off, and then I can become reactive to the outside world then.
Because most people like this feeling that's like trying to pull us to, but I have to check it. It's not a logical thing because nothing's going to happen. It's that neocortex structure that you spoke about that's wide fear and anxiety and reactiveness into your actual way of operating.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, if you just give yourself that morning, and obviously due diligence, some of you may have to check your emails at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. But if you can stay consistent with not looking at your phone when you first wake up in the morning, and if you don't have children, that time could be the perfect time to meditate. It is so beautiful because you can tap into your theta state a lot quicker. So you can have all these beautiful brain changes happening first up in the morning. And honestly, you'll notice your world will change. It will absolutely, the way you, because how we look at the world, our perception is all our perception. It's all about the lens. I actually
Mm,
don't look at the news, and I get my news sources from elsewhere, right? From
yeah.
Flipboard or from other ways that are not so sensationalized, because
Yes.
that way I don't get caught up in this groundswell of the world is a really dark, scary place.
Yes.
It derails us straight away for the day that we had planned of having a really successful day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the morning routine for
So,
us.
so, so question for me. When do you check your Aura Ring stats?
Yeah, good call. Not for the first 8 minutes. I know it's like really addictive to do that because you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
better see what's going on with my body.
Yeah.
But I don't even do that when I first wake up. I honestly just own those first few minutes to myself.
Yes.
And it's just such a beautiful way to do that. I've got lots of plants in my bedroom. So, and the reason why I have plants around as well is by us looking at nature decreases depression and anxiety. Plus, there's a couple of little plants that actually, like the aloe vera and the mother-in-law tongue, they give us lots of rich oxygen. So I sleep with a lot
Mm.
of plants in everyone's bedrooms.
Is the Mothermore tongue the one where it's like a long, dark, leafy green with like a thin white stripe on it?
That's it. It's I've got one just here. It's like a snake plant as well.
Yeah.
I've honestly got plants throughout my whole house, and we live like I can
In
see the
nature.
there. I live in nature,
Yeah.
right? I know how crucial. I know how important it is for mental health. So those ones, there's another one called a lily. So the lily plants are really good. But just
Yes.
because you've got dogs or cats, okay, keep those ones up high because they're not good for dogs and cats if they eat the leaves. But they're really good at exchanging out formaldehyde in the air. So if you use chemical cleaners and you don't use essential oils, or you don't use just, your white vinegar, lemon and bicarb soda to clean, but you use chemical cleaners, then I'd really recommend you start getting some plants in your house because it exchanges out the formaldehyde for really rich oxygen. So then when you're sleeping, you've got this beautiful rich oxygen, and they're like $20, right, from Bunnings. Just jump online, just order them to your home. That's an easy hack. Okay, so if you can't get out in nature, bring nature inside to you.
Amazing. I love that. And for anyone that doesn't have a very good kind of routine with their phone in the morning, what I do is I just put my phone on charge in another room, which
Right.
I heard this idea for so long without doing it because
Yeah,
I just like, but I need my alarm. And I just bought a $7 or a $10 alarm clock from
yeah,
Kmart.
yeah.
I just have my alarm clock on the other side of the room. Most of the time I wake up before it goes off anyway, but I just like have it there, and then I jump up and turn it off, get dressed, and then I go downstairs and meditate in the morning. But
Beautiful.
it's so, but if for whatever reason I go away and I forget my alarm clock and I just put my phone next to my bed, I instantly get straight back into that old
So
pattern.
addictive.
And I don't blame myself because it is so addictive. It's outside my control. I just don't even know that I'm doing it. So I have to remove it from the room, or else I just get on it.
It honestly, and they're so intelligent. The algorithms that these phones do, they give you little dopamine hits every time you get a little ping, and that is why they're so addictive. So you kind of need some boundaries in place. We all do, right? Like before I even
Yeah.
saw this research about checking your phone and how it changes the brain in a detrimental way, I used to do it. I used to have the phone next to me. I'd wake up, right? I'd just have a look at things and didn't realize how bad that was for my brain.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're saying you have to take a pill. We're just saying, hey, let's have some discipline and not check our phone for the first.
Yeah. And you were being quite empathetic with people's routines. Like, oh, if you have to check your emails and stuff, it's like, this is your life and your routine. So just take responsibility for how you can going to customize it and make it really special for yourself.
Absolutely. And
Your
do not
time.
empower anyone else. Do not empower anybody else to set up your day. Do not allow anybody else in. And what I mean by that, some of our athletes, our elite athletes we train, they used to check their social media, right, for dopamine hits, right, for confirmation and reward about their game that have these comments.
Yep.
Now, if they had one negative comment on their feed and they had 500 positive ones, where would their mind go?
Yeah. The negative.
Right.
Yeah.
And it would derail, they would milk that moment for the next 24 hours. And I'm like,
Yes.
what are you doing? Just honestly.
What are you doing?
And with those kinds of things as well, I say this to the athletes, and we have the same philosophy at EQ Minds. If you ever get bullied, right, or someone makes a bad comment on your feed, do you know what you do? You delete, you block, and you move forward.
I love that.
Depending on the comment, and my team knows it, they know if they need to report something to me, and if it's something that I need to marinate on and take the feedback on. But if it's someone who's not in the arena or if it's someone who you would not go to advice from, but you're taking criticism from them, okay, do not allow that. You literally, they are not allowed in your tribe. And do you know what's so beautiful? You just allow space for more incredible human beings in. And then you
Yes.
don't have any of these kind of bullying, you just do not allow it in your space.
Yeah.
And it's great. My team is so all over it. They're like, delete, block, move forward, delete, block, move. We don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's very rare we'll get any kind of backlash on our social media. But if we do, they know it. They know what to do with it. And they don't even tell
Yes.
me about it because that could derail me. So
I
like,
love
we
that.
don't tell Chelsea that someone says, oh, boo-hoo, you had postnatal depression. Why don't you have a cry? Like that kind of stuff. It's terrible. Right? We don't
Yeah.
need those people in our tribe. Like, block, move forward.
And you can do that as well, because I used to have my team that just managed all my comments, and most of the time they would just ignore them or delete them, or
Yeah.
sometimes they'd say, "You're wrong, you peanut," or
Yeah.
something on the thread just to stir people up. But I never saw it because I didn't manage it. But recently,
Yeah.
when I started rebuilding a new team, I
Yeah.
was seeing it, and then I was just like, "I'm just
Yeah.
deleting this," and I'm like, "Can I do that?" Because I didn't even know. I was like, you can just delete and block them. Why?
Oh,
And then I was thinking, why doesn't everyone do that?
it is so empowering. And that's what I'd love to teach my teenagers at schools
Yeah.
around this bullying piece, is that do not allow those people into your life. You get the
Just
choice.
terminate the boys from your school.
Delete,
Delete.
block.
Love that. Well, Charles, this has been such an awesome chat. I've got one more question for you before we finish up. But I wanted to honor you, Charles, for being such an amazing embodied leader, because you're someone that prioritizes growth at the highest level, but you create so much space for yourself. The way that you run your company is incredible. That was so cool to hear about your 6-week, every 6 weeks is 1 week holiday. That's incredible. And so I just want to say thank you for being you, for being such an embodied leader and an ambassador that's leading from the front, in the way that you're just making it happen for your own life and you're living it. And so thank you for being you, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you, Ryan.
Where do people find you? Where's the best place for them to check you out? I know you got a cranking Insta following.
I think just come there, right? Just come join our tribe at Instagram at EQ Minds. We do mental health tips and tools up there every single day. And we're always talking to our community, asking you guys what you need from us. And we're really responsive to that. So with meditations we're recording or podcast guests and things like that, just come and join us at EQ Minds. I'd love to have you a part of the community.
Yeah, and I always encourage people to, so if you're watching or listening to the interview now, just pause it and then just go find EQ Minds and just send the team a message. You might send like a little thank you for the podcast or something that stood out for you. I personally really appreciated your vulnerability, and your practicality today was amazing. I just love your knowledge bombs. It's just
thanks, Ryan.
So amazing. So yeah, send a message through, and if you got a question, you guys might address it in the form of like a post or something like that. So
we'd love to. And if you screenshot this podcast and send it to us, we will absolutely reshare that on our Instagram stories, so we can just kind of social ripple this out, right? Like I think together we can actually have this beautiful impact on the globe where we can change mental health statistics around. And one person, if you share something on your feed that we'll reshare, you could hit someone in your circle you have no idea that's struggling. And that one message could actually encourage them to ask for help. And how amazing would that be, right?
Yeah, and you also interview a bunch of amazing people. You've got some amazing people coming up. I know I'm going to be jumping on the podcast.
I know, because you're such a beautiful soul, and I think my audience
Charles.
absolutely love your wisdom on ours as well. So,
Thank you. I know we're getting right to the end of it. I got one more question I'd love to wrap up on, and that is, someone comes to you and says, you're a powerhouse coach, Chelsea. I want you to just give me just the most powerful thing that you have. And I'm going to give you $1 million for the most powerful tip or practice or strategy that you could give to me. And I'm not going to tell you anything about me, because it can't be like relevant to me, custom. Just what would you give that person in exchange for $1 million as the most valuable thing that you feel that you could teach?
I would teach them a really good sleep hygiene routine to get them quality rest. I think it all starts there. If you sleep really well and get quality rest, I think you can conquer anything in life. And
Amazing.
so that's where I'd get them to start. I think that is so crucial. And people sometimes have got the perception that they sleep well, but they still wake up tired. And to me, that says, hey, the quantity is there. Maybe you're doing this 7 or 8 hours, but because you're on the screens or you're having coffees too late during the day or having a glass of wine before you go to bed, the deep REM is not there. So
Yeah.
let's get you really good 1.5 hours of deep REM. And that's where we
Yes.
would start. And I think that is definitely worth $1 million.
Yeah, it is. Totally. Thank you, Chels. Thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a blast.
Oh,
Massive love your way. And I can't wait to chat again soon.
we love your work too. Thanks so much, Ryan.